Good evening, everyone, and welcome to After the Roll, The Legend of Vox Machina, Season 2, Episode 4, Those Who Walk Away. I am one of your hosts, Travis J. Crokin, the Calm Scribe, and I am being joined by my fellow co-host, Sporkle Spork, also known as Billy. How are you tonight, Billy?
Oh, I am doing great now that we're here together, for this wonderful show. It was a rough day today. It was really tough to get through. But I'm glad to be here.
I don't know what it was. It was a day today, most definitely.
It was. I heard your story about like the cocktail, and I was just like, oh, the feels. I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was intense. It was really intense. But like I said, this cocktail was actually really difficult for me to pull off. I wasn't sure what I was going to do for this cocktail. I already have the next two cocktails designed.
Wow.
This one really threw me for a loop. So the description that I wrote for this cocktail, for everyone that's out there, is called, and for those of you that don't know, with After the Roll, we break down every episode of Vox Machina, and I design custom cocktails for each episode. This custom cocktail was called Second Chances. Let me know, Billy, if you think that this hits the marks, or if it's a good kind of fit for this episode.
All right, sounds good.
So I knew I could choose from the Matron of Ravens, from Yarvos, from being petrified, from being brought back to life. There's so many things, and that's what kind of made it difficult to pin anything down. So with a lot of inspiration to draw from, I decided to design a cocktail based on the overall theme of the show, with select elements represented. Just like this episode, Second Chances is complex with a slight bitterness. The egg white adds a silky mouthfeel, and when combined with a red wine float, represents Yarvos. The grapefruit oils muddled into the tequila add a bitter note to match Zara and Cash's betrayal, but is countered by the fresh grapefruit juice and the subtle sweetness of agave syrup. This tequila-forward cocktail is multi-layered with a smooth balance to avoid overpowering. It's a solid representation of the second chances had by the group, Vex and Vax, and the calming of the bitter tensions between the Slayers take. So that is the cocktail Second Chances. Close to being on the mark?
Yeah, it's interesting now that you explained it. Yeah, no wonder it was a tough drink to put together. That's pretty intense. I really like what you went for there, and I think you hit the mark pretty well. I'm still saddened by the fact that you didn't decide to do a drink about getting stoned, but it still hit the mark.
That's a good one. But the first drink had cannabis in it, so...
Yeah,
but that would have been... I might have to do a second drink for this episode. That part that flew over my head. So let's pause for a really quick second, or 3 minutes, to see how to make this cocktail. And you'll see how choppy my video was.
Oh, good.
All right. Time for another Legend of Vox Machina cocktail. This one is based on episode 4 of season 2 called Those Who Walk Away. And the cocktail is called Second Chances. So let's dive into this because this one is very technical and there's a lot we do with it. So the first thing we need is 4 grapefruit peels that we're going to put in here. You have 5 grapefruit peels, but you're going to hold on to the other one for a little bit until the end. And then we have 2 ounces of tequila. White tequila is going to be best for this drink. So make it your friend, at least for this cocktail. Then we're going to muddle the grapefruit peels in the bottom of the cocktail shaker, just in the tequila to express those essential oils that are so lovely into the drink. Now that we have that muddled, we're going to add the rest of we have already got the pre-measures of our stuff here. So that's 1.5 ounces of grapefruit juice. 3 dashes of orange bitters are going to go in there. And then we're going to put in 1 egg white or 2 tablespoons of egg whites if you're using a carton one. Toss in our cocktail spring. We're going to give that a quick shake. Just to emulsify what we've got going inside. Get the egg white all nice and frothy and foamy for us. Then we're going to add in our ice. Now that we have our ingredients in here and we've already shaken it with the spring, we've added our ice, we're going to add just 1/4 ounce of agave syrup, just for a bit of sweetener. A little agave syrup goes a very long way. It's also known as agave nectar, just depends on what you refer to it as. So now we're going to take this and give it another shake with ice. And that is going to give us a nice, frothy, foamy cocktail. You can pour in here with just a little bit of sweetness. The egg white is going to froth up beautifully on top for us. And now we're going to take half an ounce of red wine and we're going to float that on top of our cocktail. So use a bar spoon and you're just going to give this a quick float. There we go. Let that settle around. It kind of gives us a reminder of the Yarvos boss they have to fight in this episode. And we're going to take our last grapefruit peel. I'm just going to express that over top. Give it a bit of a rub around the rim. And you can use it as a garnish or you can set it aside however you want. And there we have Second Chances for cheers. Oh, that's a beautiful cocktail. Very smooth, very nice. It's a fantastic cocktail to drink while you're watching episode 4. See you again next time, my friends. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy Legend of Vox Machina. And let me know of any cocktails you would like to see. We'll talk to you again next time. And there we have how to make second chances. So you see, a bit rough, bit of a choppy things. And another note too is that, 2 notes on that. The agave nectar is actually supposed to go in with the spring before, in the dry shake, before you add the ice, but I forgot it, obviously, because my day. And the red wine float didn't go so well. But the thing is, not to worry, if your red wine float does actually run down the side like that one did and kind of get a little bit bulbous, if you leave it sit for a minute, it will balance itself out and become an even layer going across. But I wanted to have, like, I know Yarvos has the gray stone skull cap and then the red underneath, but I wanted to have kind of that representation there of Yarvos. So cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, that was great. Honestly, you said that it was rough. I thought it was actually pretty interesting. I liked those little fast forwarding bits. It was like, I don't need to watch you stir for 15 seconds. That's pretty cool. Honestly, I think that drink is really cool. It's a really neat idea. It sounds delicious. I might have to find your TikTok just so I can make that on my own.
They're also, all the cocktails are also available. So if we actually, I'll do it here, but if we type !cocktails into chat, you get a link directly to the website that has all of these cocktails already listed and all the ingredients and instructions on how to prepare these cocktails for you.
Wow. I didn't know.
There we go. But yeah, so it's actually really nice because it is just 2 ounces of tequila. It's pretty heavy hitting. That's why I didn't want to reshoot the video. I didn't want to drink 6 ounces of tequila today. That would be a little bit heavy. But you don't really, tequila is very subtle in the background. It's the grapefruit that really comes through. And because you're muddling tequila with the grapefruit oil and then expressing over top and rubbing it on the rim, it's more of the bitterness of the grapefruit that comes through. And the orange bitters adds that citrus tie-in for everything. It's pretty fantastic. So,
great.
There we are. Episode 4, Those Who Walk Away.
Episode 4.
Episode 3 ended with a gut punch. And then we had to wait a week. Episode 4 started with a gut punch. I don't know what was more traumatizing for me, the end of episode 3 or the beginning of episode 4. So what were your takes on the cold open where Vax saves Vex and they come across a new friend?
Yeah, honestly, it's hard because the Legends of Vox Machina have some of the best cold opens, I think, that I've seen in animation all over the place. And it's hard. I think that it's easily arguable that this might have been one of the best ones, if not the best one. It really was extremely emotional. It really makes you appreciate not only their relationship, but the relationship Vex has with Trinket.
Yeah, it does. And I have to say, it seems like every odd episode that we do of this, we're like, that is the best cold open in the history of it. Because they just knock it out of the park so often with this. And so for those of you that didn't see it, what happens in this cold open is it's a flashback. Vax is saving Vex. Hey, thank you for the alert, Travis. Vax is saving Vex, who's been captured by some lizard men. Very evil creatures running around. My brain keeps wanting to call them Draconians. I don't think they're Draconians, though. But they're these creatures that have Vex locked away, and Vax runs in and saves her. And as they're running and trying to escape, they come across, they have to hide inside of another cage, and they come across an injured bear who they put out of its misery and find was a mother with a bear cub, and they take the bear cub away. Some very intriguing points to pull out of this cold open, though. In one, there's the subtle ability that they have of really showcasing what you're up against. So we see Vax creeping through the campfire, and it's creeping through the shadows, and these giant creatures running around doing stuff. And that really creates a sense of tension and fear. But they up the ante, because there's this, you could be, without knowing about writing, you would say, well, that was kind of a useless shot. But there's this beautiful shot of one of the creatures sitting before a fire and just pulling the skin off of a squirrel. And then we hear Vex say how she had heard, like, she doesn't know who they are, what they're doing, maybe brigades or bands or something, but she's heard some very horrifying things. So that just really shows, just that skinning just shows how strong, how powerful, and how cruel these creatures are that they're trying to escape from.
Yeah, the word that came to my mind when I was looking at it was brutal. Like these are creatures that are just unfathomably brutal. They will just sit there and skin a creature just like it's nothing. This is just everyday life. Probably going to cook it, and maybe that's what they have in store for Vex. I don't know what they're doing with these caged animals and people. So.
Yeah, you don't want to. And from most lore that I know of this style of character, it probably is being skinned alive and eaten. Yep. Is what is in store for them, because they haven't heard her to this point. The other thing too is that you need to take note of is that Vax immediately jumps into a aggressive defensive stance when they see the bear, and it's Vex that puts his hand and says stop, there's like, it's injured, and she approaches and she works with it. And then when she has Vax kill the bear, they look over and they see the bear cub, and she grabs it, and Vax says, what are you doing? We need to raise a bear. And then she says, brother, whatever happens is beyond our control.
Yep.
And they grab the bear and they leave. And I actually took a big note in this, because obviously all the entire season is out. What an ending. But I
can't get into that today.
We can't get into that anytime soon. It's going to be a while out for that. But I realized just how much foreshadowing and referencing back and things like that they have done, especially in this episode, but in the other episodes as well. So I'm going to be taking some notes moving forward on just how things have tied back in earlier into this episode and how they've set stuff up. Because a big thing in writing is bookending storylines, bookending character arcs, bookending different things that are happening. And they have got some beautiful bookendings in this.
Yeah, we've brought it up before in the past and in different episodes, that their ability to bookend and really take things that oftentimes you don't even notice that you notice in early episodes, and then it comes back and you're immediately like snapped back to that episode, and you're like, oh wow, that was so smart how they laid that out. And like you said, this is just one of those episodes that kind of leads itself to that. It's beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. Just putting a quick note here for a future episode. Well, it's just because I found, again, we can't get into it, but I found the storyline between two of the characters that mirror really well, surprisingly, and the end of this episode and the end of the final episode, and how things are kind of resolved, are very much a mirror of each other, parallel story structures, with characters that have been going through some intense emotional upset.
I would say that's an understatement.
Yeah. But with this, we're back inside the tomb, and we have Vax just beside himself, because Vex is laying stone cold on the ground, or not yet cold, but dead. And then Zara and Cash come in, and Zara's immediate reaction is, shit, they found a vestige. And Cash's reaction is like, what's happening here? And this next point, so Pike is trying to heal, and she says, there's nothing to heal. Like, I can't heal. Which is not, as a fan, what you want to hear for Vex in this situation. But then, this is something for... I know you normally talk about the acting, the voice acting of things, but for me, that hollow cry of somebody do something from Vax just sent chills down my spine.
Yeah, it's something that I took note of too. the emotion, the emotional connection between these characters and the actors that play them, and how they played out in this scene, especially, it's it raised the hairs on the back of my neck when Vax, called out like that. It sounded so desperate, so he needs Vex to survive in order for him to survive himself, and it was heart wrenching.
It truly was, and that's what causes Cash to dive forward and say, "Okay, no, we have to do something. We can't just stay here with this."
Cash with morals. What's
Yeah, and that's the thing. And that was the thing. Zara is still very much playing the hand of the Slayers take through all of this, right? And it's not, and there's not even a lot of concern. It's more of just, oh, there's a dead body. How do we get this vestige?
Right.
And then Cash says, we have to do a revival ritual. We have to jump in and try to bring her back. And he works with Pike, and they start this ritual while the body's still warm to try to get this done. And as this whole chaos is happening in the foreground, you see Grog and Percy sit Vax down, and there's just there's so much happening with subtle language, with quiet talk, and with background and foreground stuff in this episode. It was really complex.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm going to bring it up again in a little bit, but I thought this was another really picturesque moment of the male characters showing emotion and handling each other's emotions appropriately. There was no shut-ups or quips or anything. They took Vax, they sat him down, and they sat with him.
Yeah,
that's what needed to happen.
Exactly, and I think they handle the mental aspect of things, emotional aspect of things so well, and the diverse aspect of things in the show. They handle it so well.
Mm-hmm.
Very beautifully. But as this is happening, that also being sat back sets the scene for him to be watching, and then all of a sudden this black feather floats down and shatters the spell and stops the spell from happening.
Couple things there. First of all, the effects that they use to show this resurrection spell, really cool. This was one of those things that I was really curious how it was going to be shown. How do you do a resurrection spell? How do you show that? And I thought that the way that they did it was really, really neat. But then to have the added effect of the matron of ravens and the feathers and the coloring and stuff, the way it mixed together and ruined the spell or blocked the spell, it was really neat to see.
Yeah, it was. Again, there's just such. I'm a big fan of the colors black and gold, and so the colors in this episode were just fantastic. And that's what I was really actually fixated on with the cocktail, was how do I do a black and gold cocktail? And then I realized there's way many other things that I can work on for that. But then again, there's this Vax screaming, "This can't be happening," and again, just so much raw emotion coming from him for this. But it doesn't work, and then that's when it says, we're in the domain of the ravens. The spell aren't, we're in the domain of the matron of ravens. The spells aren't going to work. And then Grog suggests getting out of the tomb, and Scanlan's frantically searching through the bag of everything for another potion or something that's going to do anything to kind of help solve this problem.
Yeah. During this part, I believe, if my notes don't lie to me, which they might be, is an effect we see where Vax is basically having a mental shutdown, and you can hear, you get to witness as everyone's voices, where you're watching the scene and you're seeing everyone working, and the scene pans over to Vax, and you see all the voices just kind of start to echo in the background. And I found that to be a super, super, super powerful visualization and an audible cue of how that kind of mental breakdown happens, where all of a sudden everything else that's going on around you is hollow and meaningless because you can only focus on this one thing that's tearing you apart. Again, the way that they handle these kind of mental situations is incredible. That one specifically I just really wanted to point out an amazing effect.
I've got that written down as well, or noted down in my notes as well, because that's the thing is being someone with PTSD, gone through a severe trauma, and having anxiety and depression. I know exactly what that's like, to have the entire world fade to black and just you hear this, everything is just 1,000 miles away. So the fact that that's happening, and you actually get to see as these voices are echoing and they're distant and they're muttering and he can't focus on them, he's actually watching the mistress or the matron of ravens slowly reach down and then like pierce the protective shell over Vex and shatter it. Yeah. And that's when he jumps up, and and again, from my experience, that's where you do have something you're going to react to when he jumps up and he says, "Take me, you raven bitch."
Yeah, strong words.
Yeah. Sailor Rucci, thank you for coming through and showing your love for Sporkle.
Oh, hey, Captain Jack, thank you.
Nice to have you. Welcome to the Writer's Chat. But then she looks to him, and Vex, at this point, is floating out of the body, and they're connected by this beautiful golden tendril. And as soon as he calls her the raven bitch, she looks at him and kind of like plucks the cord and snaps it, and you see it kind of like slowly whiptail back into his chest.
Again, it's a very interesting effect because you don't really know what that means. You don't really know why Vex is connected by some kind of cord to Vex. You don't understand what it means for her to snap that cord. In all of my many years of thinking about animation, a cord like that is usually life. And that's usually the thread that's holding you to this world.
Yeah.
So did she just sever like that life? That's what it looked like to me. And I was just like, oh no.
Yeah, my heart sank when I saw that. I was just, It was really heart-wrenching to watch. But the interesting thing is that Vex isn't the only one that can see or sense the Matron of Ravens. Because at this point, Trinket jumps up and starts growling directly and facing her, looking at her, starts growling at her. So there's a sense that Trinket has with this as well. But then all of a sudden, everyone thinks it's over, it's done, and Vex comes back to life. I love the clouding over and the clearing of the eyes for the death. The subtlety that they've used for a lot of these things is just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that it was a great effect. It was great because they used that same effect of the clouding over at the end of the last episode to show that she died. And so to have them kind of use that again to show that she was coming back was really cool.
Yeah. And in their perfect tone, the way they always do, they managed to hit their pacing marks pretty well on point. Right? There's the Vex comes back and is disoriented and says, well, what happened? And Percy starts trying to say, well, I touched the vestige and something happened. And then Grog cuts in and says, you were fucking died.
My favorite part was they basically just gave up. They're like, she's gone. We can't do anything. Vex comes back to life. And then Cash goes, holy shit, I'm amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You did nothing, man. But pat yourself on the back. Good job.
Exactly. And it's not like Pike didn't do anything. It was just, holy shit, I'm great. But yeah, I mean, and I would say agree. I would agree with that. But then, so Cash saves her, Trinket snuggles in, and they have this, again, odd moment of sweet gentleness where he's snuggling Vex, and she's like, yes, I love you too. Your breath smells lovely. It's like, again, this little weird thing that gets tossed in, but really has that emotional tie-in and connection. There's so much, and I don't find that any of the emotion that they used in this scene or in any of the writing that they've done to be contrived or forced in any way, shape, or form. It's actually very much that is such a realistic, touching moment to have that comment about the breath.
Right, exactly. And it just hits even closer to home after the cold open, because now you have this like inside look at the relationship. So it just means so much more.
Yeah, and that was, they saved him from certain death, and now she's back from death. So Hello, Art of Maddie. Welcome to the Writers Chat.
Maddie, hey.
Welcome, welcome.
Wow.
All of your fans are coming out, Sparkle.
Yeah, my fan base is out in full force tonight.
Fantastic. But yeah, so like just the emotion that they tie into this, and again, that's not contrived, and it's there's just the subtle touches that they add into stuff, and I think that's the thing is there are so many aspects of each scene that you're looking at, like we've discussed. No part of anything visually that you're seeing is wasted, and especially in this episode, no part of anything auditory that you're hearing is wasted. There's in looking at one scene, there is 4 or 5 different scenes playing out within that one scene, and that's how they can condense so much into such a short period of time.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about that at how much happens in these very, very short, short length episodes that, man, I'm getting tongue tied. Must be all the fans. Yeah. You got it, Travis. You got it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though. Like they cram so much in and so much storytelling into this, and the more you watch, the more you pull out from it. But this is also the point where you kind of you see it, but this is the point where you kind of recognize for the first time that Vax is wearing the vestige. He's wearing it, and he runs in, and it has this beautiful moment with Vex as he runs in and gives her a hug, and then Scanlan turns around and looks at Cash and Zara, and is like, "You two ditched us." I'm like, no, we didn't.
Where the hell were you?
And yeah, I love the fact that there's no over explaining, because that's the thing of in psychology, if someone's lying, you can tell oftentimes they tend to over explain or give too much. Oh, well, we're doing this, we're doing that. Every time they respond back, it's with a quick quip. It's a lie, but it's a quick quip, and they don't over explain. You guys ditched us. No, we didn't.
Yeah, my favorite one is going to come up later.
yeah, I love that one too. Though it said, we couldn't find you. That's all it was. But then again, there's the converse as they decide. Vex, what did I just do? Oh yeah, we looked with the matron, and he sees everything. He's like, what just happened? What did I just do? So we see that Vax is very confused, and now that he knows his sister is okay, he's kind of got this moment of, oh shit, I just called out like an ethereal being, called her a raven bitch, got in her face, and now I'm suddenly wearing her armor. What did I just get myself into?
Yeah, what does it mean?
Yeah, exactly. But then they decide, you know what, they should probably just continue moving and getting out of there. So they go back to the main hall of this tomb, and that's where, again, Zara and Cash are having this battle where Zara's like, we're not here to make friends, we're here for the Slayer's take. And again, they move forward, like they take the lead again. I think I was actually at Scanlan's behest. He's like, okay, well, you guys lead. They go through, and they go to, as they're walking away, what she says, Zara says, you know what, we need to take the vestige back. We can't let them have it. It's ours. It belongs to the Slayer's take. We have to take it. And then comes another point of tension relief. So they don't just do massive tension and then a quick drop off. They do subtle waves and peaks and valleys going through, which is nice. Where Keyleth says, everybody watch for traps on the way out. And Pike says, I think Grog got them all on the way in. He's like, oh, you're welcome.
You're welcome. Yeah. It's funny because we made such a point to hit on the fact that they were letting Grog lead in the last episode and he was hitting all the traps. And why don't they stop him from hitting all these traps? Oh, I guess we know now because the way out's a lot easier.
I got you covered. But then as they're going through, Vax stops and he sees a vision of the Calamity. What were your thoughts of that?
Yeah. So this vision specifically was very confusing. He kind of goes into a trance or dreamlike state. His eyes kind of shine over is the way that I guess I would describe it. And he just sees himself in this red world. It was interesting, but I think this first vision itself just left me confused about what was happening instead of answering anything.
Yeah, because that's all because it was a massive battle scene, and then these giant. All I put down in my notes were Calamity, Elder Gods, Sphinx, and Matron of Raven's Champion. Because you could see that there's someone wearing something that looks similar to the vestige way off in the distance. And so you could tell there was something was there. But yeah, it didn't make any sense at all. And you're right, Artemati. This was an insanely emotional roller coaster of an episode. It was all over the place. And that's what some of the things they do really well with this writing is. And with the acting of it is they really tie things together and really make you... I talk incessantly about in your writing, using senses, using different things to ensure that the viewer, the audience, your reader is able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the characters and watch what's happening. And they do that masterfully. You forget that you're watching a cartoon. You forget that you're watching a show. You're standing beside Vax as he's watching this. You're standing beside the group as they're fighting. That you're involved in the show. Your heart rate is going up, which is going to be interesting because I've got a Holter monitor coming on for the next 2 weeks. So watching this is going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Perfect timing.
Exactly. But they do have that. And then as they're going along, Cash and Zara are talking again, and says, like, they can't... Zara says they can't walk away with the Takes property. We have to do something about this. And they jump up to the ledge. And then Kiki calls out for them, and they've disappeared again. As far as Vox Machina knows, they've disappeared again. They're gone.
Yeah, this is just another, I'm going to say, cog in the wheel that is Zara, where she continues to show that she kind of has this one-track mind about getting this vestige back, about one-upping Vex, about being the one in charge, in control, the one with the cool thing. And she just doesn't let go of it. She will not let go of this desire to take the vestige from them. And I had a little bit of a back and forth in my mind during this episode. I felt pretty strongly in the last episode that these two were kind of acting as rogue agents, that they just didn't want Vox Machina to have the vestige or get the vestige. But the more that this episode went on, the more it sounded to me like Zara was saying that this was a task that the Slayer's Take had put on them. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know if that's just Zara's convincing of herself that this is the right thing to do.
Yeah. But
it definitely left me a little gray.
Well, that was part of it too. When they first started following, she actually said that the Sphinx, Osea, didn't think that you could do it on your own, so they sent us to help you. She sent us to help you.
Right.
And that was the conversation that we had back then. It was, well, is that actually a legitimate argument, or is that just, oh, no, we weren't following you. We were sent to help, so there's going to be less pushback of them trying to join the group.
Right.
And it does seem to be. There's still that gray area of what are they? And then, but she actually does say in this point, she pulls off the amulet and she releases this red magic wave out of it. And it says, if they're worthy, this will be child's play. Because Cash is like, what, are you going to kill them? She's like, no. If they're worthy, if they deserve the vestige, they'll survive. It'll be good. And then all of a sudden, out pops Yarvos. Not having watched the show, this took me like 2 hours to figure out who in the hell this enemy was. Because I knew it was based roughly on a beholder, but it definitely was not a beholder. And I was going through, and then finally I figured out that it's Yarvos.
Yeah, I was. It's funny because when I was watching this, I can't remember this part. I don't know if there was this battle or not, honestly. But when I saw the creature, I was like, it looks so much like a beholder, but it's definitely not acting or doing beholdery things.
It did levitate the stones, though. So when it came out, you saw the stones kind of rise. So I actually did, in my research, I did find out that this does break away from the table, in the sense that Yarvos actually, in the gameplay, Yarvos was hiding in the tomb, because Scanlan says, like, what, he's been hiding there the whole time? So in the game, Yarvos was hiding in the tomb, and it was actually Zara, at that point, was actually helping them, and was working with them, and was trying to fight back and stop him immediately. So this was a choice to make Zara still be stuck in her path of trying to defend everything, and using this to throw another obstacle into their path to try to get the vestige.
Interesting.
So it does break away from the actual game top play.
Good to know.
I actually know something about the game top play for once.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's when I was watching. I was like, I don't remember this happening like this.
Yeah, so it was different from that. But then it and that's even like Vax says, like this doesn't feel like the other traps. This is different. He comes
Yeah.
out, the rocks start floating, and one thing that I have to say, the design is amazing of the
So
character
cool.
and
Yeah.
the sound, that brrrr, almost like mechanic. It reminded me of I don't know if it was Space Odyssey 2001, but it was one of those alien movies that I was actually a very similar tone, or maybe may have been Arrival, where that was kind of the alien tone that they had. It was this mechanical vibration sound, and it was the I could not have picked a more perfect sound for this creature. Yeah, it was just unearthly and beautiful, and the Keyleth looks at it and says, "We've pissed it off." And again, Scanlan, one of my favorite lines in the episode, was like, "Yeah, we tend to do that with people."
Yeah, and he's not wrong.
Yeah, but then they can't. All I have is like Grog jumps in. I'm like, they can't land a hit.
Yeah, it's almost laughable how bad they are at this encounter. Even like Grog's unable to get a hit, like that happens. But even Keyless like attempt to have the vine like wall that she likes to do and have that backfire, and like the tentacles just make its way over the wall and everything. Like it was laughable how bad they did.
It was, but it also showed how strong of a character or a creature Yarvos was, because
Yeah.
there wasn't even a moment of delay. That the tentacle wall or the vine wall comes up a little bit later, but you see the tentacle shooting towards it, and then as soon as the wall comes up, it just shoots up, shoots over, and shoots down. Like it's just really quick. Like he doesn't
Yeah.
think. It's almost like
Does.
an octopus where the tentacles are reacting on their own. It's almost like, or like a beholder. It's almost like they have eyes on you,
Yeah.
and they're going through it. But Cash and Zara are watching from above. Grog is instantly petrified. He's slammed to the wall and petrified. And then we have
Poor
Vax
Grog.
dives back into a vision where all of a sudden we see that it is actually Pervon that he's fighting against. And Pervon seems all of a sudden not as funny as his name makes him out to be.
No, he's kind of scary. He is a rather large, imposing skeleton with armor on, who, if you like hit him, he's hard as rock.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I realized that this actually, it's kind of a spoiler for later on the episode, but this battle is showing the power of the Vestige.
Right.
Because you see how fast he is and he's moving around, moving through and stuff like that. And I actually thought the same thing. I'm like, that's a badass looking skeleton dude.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wrote.
But in my fourth or fifth watch through, I realized that it's not. Because later on, when he does what he does and Vax kind of gets accepted, which we'll discuss in a moment, if you look close when he's kneeling down and you look at the camera cruising close on his face, there's a human under that. It's a mask.
Yeah, you're right.
So there is a human under that. So it was a mask that he was wearing, but he looks like a skull.
Yep.
It's absolutely gorgeous. But
Yeah, you don't really see it until that moment. I noticed that as well, and just I didn't let it click, I guess.
yeah, so we're going to come back to that. But so there shows the battle, and again, just like a good parallel, they do really good parallel storytelling in this. Vox Machina is getting their ass kicked, and Vax doesn't have a place to stand on. You know, like he's punching Pervon, his hands are crumbling and breaking his fingers, and
Yep.
he's just getting beaten severely. Then we go back to the battle, and that's where we see Kiki throw up the wall, and the tentacles really quickly change direction. Everything is going kind of sideways, and that's where Cash is like, we have to do something, we have to jump in. And Zara accuses him of betraying the Slayer's take if he does, and he jumps in anyways.
Exactly. And so a couple of things to take away from here. First of all, it's great to see Cash finally just taking his own lead and like following how he feels instead of following Zara. But second, that line, that betraying the Slayer's take, I That's what had me all confused. Like, is this going to come back later and be a problem? Like, is Cash going to be like exiled now from the Slayer's take? Is this a real issue?
Yeah. And that also begs the question of, what is he betraying the Slayer's take, or is he betraying Osea?
Mm-hmm.
Because if they were actually sent by Osea, then that's a pretty big betrayal. If she says, you know, like, yeah, I sent these fools out after it, but I need you guys to really go get it and bring it back to me. But that's kind of odd, because she charged them with getting it and then going to find her partner, basically with kind of a message to send along. And so it really struck me as odd that that she would send someone else to try to usurp their abilities to get it and bring it back to her. Like, this was an opportunity for her to kind of impart a message to her partner that she hasn't seen in how long.
Yep.
So there really is a gray cloud over what's kind of happening with this. But he jumps in, and then at that point, Zara jumps in, and we see she immediately gets turned to stone. And as she's turned to stone, she says, you know, it was bloody hell getting you captured into the... And she's locked. So now I kind of want to see the battle, seeing how vicious this creature is. How did she get it locked into the amulet?
Right. Yeah. It's funny because it goes to show, because at first when she released it, you know, I questioned whether or not it was a pet. Like, is this something that she would be sad if it was like hurt or killed? And then when she jumps into battle and this comes up, she's like, oh, it was bloody hell getting you in there. You realize that this is straight up a wild creature. And she like browbeat it inside of her amulet somehow.
It's pissed because it's been sitting in a pocket dimension for God knows how long. The thing that I didn't get with this, and maybe you can shed light on this, is Yarvos is super like adept and like looking everywhere, and the fact that like when his eye first rolls forward and focuses was just so well done. But
so cool.
The one, actually, I'm gonna save that for later for my gripe for the episode. I'm gonna put that in my pocket and I'm gonna bring it back later.
All right.
But yeah, so we see this battle going on, and then we're back to Vax. He's broken his hand when he cannot hurt Purvan no matter what he does.
What a bad time to be stuck in a vision.
Yeah, exactly. And he's again just kind of like hidden out of the way. And then we have. Actually, you know what? I'm going to bring up that point now. I'm going to pull it out of my pocket now because Vax kind of brings it up as well. What I found odd was that Vax is sitting off to the side. Maybe it's because he's not attacking and he's not paying attention to himself, and maybe that's the same reason for Zara and Cash. That they're in the same room. They're up above, and Yarvos has no recognition of them. He's not identifying them. He's not trying to attack them. He's not going whatever. So maybe he's going after the little gnats that are actually bothering him and trying to go after him. But there's 3 other characters in this room that are just chilling out with their feet up, doing nothing in this battle, and Yarvos isn't paying any attention to them at all.
Yeah, it could be as simple as, you know, it's the danger quotient, because those 3 haven't made a move. They're at the end of the list of people that need to be stoned. The one that actively has the giant axe, he needs to be stoned first. All right. The one that has magic, she needs to be stoned next.
Yeah, so that was kind of my thinking from it. Maybe it's the threat level that's going through. You know, the threat level midnight. But
now this guy in yellow, he gets stoned third.
But yeah, and then Scanlan and Pike are running away, and Pike says, "What? No tentacle jokes?"
Yeah, I was looking forward to this part. And Scanlan replies, too easy.
Exactly. Holy, that wasn't just wrong. I just had a chunk of grapefruit coming to my mouth when I took that last sip.
Wow.
I left some peel in there, apparently.
That was exciting.
Yeah, unfortunately. There we go. So anyway, I apologize for that. It was the tentacle jokes.
Yeah.
So we do have, and then Pike all of a sudden gets grabbed by the tentacles, and Scanlan goes into Scanlan's hand. Now, and that's the thing, that when they're first initially fighting, they all try their attacks.
Yep.
Vex tries her arrow, Scanlan tries the Scanlan hand from up above, creates a cloud of dust, and then they just get demolished. And so it's just a really quick back and forth where, like, that's the thing, this battle was a good chunk of the episode. It didn't take me as long to take my notes. But then we cut back. So then Pike and Scanlan get petrified, and then we go back to Vax, and we just see this one scene of him just getting his ankle broken.
Yeah, he looks like hell. We see his hands, like at least two of his fingers are just like shattered to a pulp. Like he's bleeding. He can barely get one of his eyes open. He looks like shit.
He's mangled. He's absolutely mangled. And then it cuts back to the other group getting mangled, and we see Vex and Trinket fighting with each other, fighting again together against this. And again, I love the fact that we actually get to see Trinket take on the battle and actually fight in this season.
We do, however, not as effective in this episode. Not as effective.
Not as effective. And this is the first time where I actually got kind of pissed at Yarvos, because everyone else, he just like wraps up and freezes, and Trinket, he bats around like a freaking play toy, and then he like ceiling, wall, floor, and then paralyzes him or petrifies him.
He needed to make sure that he learned his lesson.
This poor damn Barry's had so much trauma in his life.
He has. His whole life has been trauma.
Yeah. But then we actually get some closure with Vax, where he is standing strong, and he kind of like pulls himself up again, looking absolutely just brutalized.
Disgusting.
And he's like, okay, I don't know when to fall down. And then we have the tie back to the beginning.
Yep.
Where a small hand reaches up, touches him, and there's the child Vex, and she says, whatever happens, it's out of our control.
Yeah, it's a touching moment. It's a great callback to the cold open, and Vax like takes it in. He's really brought back down to earth by this message from his twin sister, and he just stops. He stops and accepts the Purvan's blade entering him.
I was gonna say, he accepts being entered by Purvan. Okay. Well, that was the thing. Like, he does this almost like religious figure, arms out to the side, and he actually looks in that moment. He looks healed.
Yep.
Like, it's just the pain, whatever's washed away, and Purvan flashes through him, and he's not somehow cut in half.
Right. You're kind of waiting for that moment where the body separates from each other. And it doesn't happen. He's still standing, and you don't even get a chance to look at Vax to see like his reaction to the sword going through. You just see Purvan kneel and say,
Hail, new champion.
Hail the new champion. Yeah, hail the new champion. It's powerful. It's very powerful, especially when you realize that, you know, the way that Vax overcame this ordeal was by following the words that Vex said when they were younger. Something that, you know, he struggles with.
He does. And that's the thing, is that there really is this, like I said, my fear of the parallel storylines being too close with Percy and his sister and Vex and Vax, and they're completely quashed. There's no fear of that anymore. And they do such a good give and take, push and pull. And this again shows that, like, his I can't get by without you. So it's her that pulls him through this. And then we have the new champion, and we come back. Do we come back into the tomb, or is it still in that thing, in that dreamland or vision land, where we actually see the matron of Ravens come down, and she touches him on the chest, and then we see this gold gilding go all through and everything accented in gold on his armor.
So I believe he's still in the dreamland, but she is touching the physical embodiment of the Raven armor. At least that's how I took it.
Yeah, I can't. I just can't remember. I didn't know that down. I remember that she touches the armor, and we see this beautiful gold kind of flash through it, and that's where he gets imbued with the power of the armor finally.
Yeah.
And he instantly goes it.
And now all of a sudden, Vax fucking fast.
Yeah, he's quick. He's got a little bit of speed to him.
He's a quick dude.
So yeah, he comes back and he is just like, sees Yarvos and like, it's on. He just starts zipping around, lightning quick, and again, really well animated, beautifully done. And I just have down the note of death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
And then he lands with beside Cash, And Cash is like, anyone else? He's like, no. He's like, okay, well, get in here. It's just the two of us. And he dives back in, and Cash is like, okay, well, there's that. Because he's just so fast running off. He's like, I'm going to kill him. You save everybody else. You know, we got that. And
deal.
again, there's like his... there's no questioning. There's no wondering. That it's just immediate action for him.
Yeah.
Which is pretty fantastic. And then what I really like, actually, is this awesome scene where he finally kills Yarvos, but he just runs up, and the tentacle shooting up beside him, he just kind of like casually stabs in and just like rides up the tentacle. It's just such a beautiful scene. It's
really cool. It's very... I can't even think of what I'm trying to say. It's fluid and cool. I don't know, man.
Yeah, it was just
this Monday sucks.
But I think it also shows, again, from the writing perspective, it shows the level of strength that he has now. That he is being empowered by this armor, because he doesn't like stab in and start dangling at arm's length as it's going up. He stabs in and he rides it up. If I remember, like his elbow locked. Arm, and he's just going straight up with it. Like it's they do really good subtle showings of strength and power and things like that in the show.
Yeah, it was seamless, and he just looked good doing it.
Yeah, and then he does the kick of the blade through the tentacles flashing through, and then drop kicks it into the eye.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really a really fun scene, end of the scene.
Yeah, but I was kind of sad to see Yarvos go. Like, he was actually a pretty badass enemy.
I was not.
I liked him. And then we have whoa, is that Vax? And then Grog again with a beautiful, well, damn.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks, Conquest. Have a great night. Yeah, well, damn, we got that. And then thing is dead, and then we again have the group questioning as Zara and Cash. We're like, hey, you disappeared just before that creature showed up. What the hell's going on with this?
No, we didn't. We just got something to eat. What? We got hungry.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Again, like whippy comebacks, and not they're like, oh, well, no, like, no, we're hungry. That's true. They don't even care. Like, and that's what gets me with this is there's a psychology aspect behind it where they're not going to over explaining because that's going to cause more questions and everything else. But they're also not trying to come up with anything plausible.
Yeah.
They're just like, no, you're an idiot.
We're hungry.
Forget about it. Yeah.
You gonna blame us for getting hungry?
Exactly. And Zara's remark of, well, things got out of hand, mistakes were made. And then this is actually where we get a little bit more clarity in what's happening, because and whether or not you want to believe it's true, but she says, we have been working for decades. The Slayer's Take has been working for decades to protect Asaya's secrets. And we couldn't let the vestige go into the wrong hands. You guys all of you are obviously worthy.
That's a powerful message that kind of, again, leads credence to Vox Machina's social climb and climate power.
Yeah, so there is, like, no doubt there is the power behind, like, they've come through and they've really made up for themselves and proven themselves again. But the question with that being of, were they actually trying to protect the Sphinx's best interest? Were they actually trying to ensure, like, did the Sphinx actually send them along to make sure that they were the proper people to be worthy enough to have the vestige? Or were they trying to get it for themselves? And they finally were like, you know what?
No.
You just kicked Yarvos' ass. We're not going to get it from you, so you're good.
Yeah. I don't know what the answer is, Travis. I don't know. I don't know whether Osysis sent them or not.
Yeah. They've done such a good job at kind of playing that out. And they decide that they're going to get out of there. Or they actually say, like, you know, Cash says, like, we could apologize all afternoon, but if we want to live for you guys to accept the apology, we should probably get the hell out of here before this place floods.
And you start seeing the walls cracking and water flooding in, and you think, oh, there's going to be a whole other, like, underwater escape segment.
Yep. And no, they just surface. But again, with that, there's the little hidden things of like you hear a Cash being like, "Oh my god, I swallowed so much water."
Yeah, I heard that too. It's like deep in the background too.
Yeah, but that was the thing. Like, there's just so many layers to every single part of the show, being audio, visual. It's fantastic with how they do it. Um, and then, what do you think of back on land? Just Vax staring out at the water, and Percy decides this is the best time to try to apologize.
Yeah, Percy's still kind of on his let's do things a little bit rash parade. It was one thing to touch the vestige. It's another whole thing to bring up, oh, I literally just killed your sister less than an hour ago. Now's the time to talk about it.
My bad.
Wow. Percy.
Yeah. But it actually does reference what you and I were talking about last episode, where we're like, yeah, he's acting, he's rash, he's brash, he's moving in ways that we wouldn't normally expect him to.
Yep.
Then he actually says, I rushed in, I was careless, and I did get her killed. And so he does actually kind of recognize that it happens to the best of us. He does actually recognize that, what he did was stupid and foolhardy and rushing forward. But like you pointed out, he's still acting in that manner now.
Yeah. Also, though, I feel like it's a little bit more growth as well, because he is very quick to admit that it was his fault. And I feel like Percy last season wouldn't be.
Yeah. But he also wasn't himself last season.
That's true. That is true.
He had a demon that was kind of doing a bit of mind control.
Tinkering with him.
Yeah. But we do have that apology thing that kind of come through, and Vax, I think, had an entirely appropriate response.
Yeah, I mean, I think the brush off was reasonable. Not only is that just something that is unfathomable right now and not appropriate, but Vax has other things on his mind kind of confusing him right now. So the patience for a blithering apology isn't high on his list.
So I just want to take a note and say that if turning around and smashing someone square in the mouth with your fist is what you consider brushing off, I don't want to get brushed off by you.
That's just how we brush people off in the States.
But yeah, it was just a smash in the face, and then not even a word, just out. So he did definitely brush him off, and cold cocked him, which you would expect. Hey, D Cruz, how are you? We are fantastic tonight. Yeah, so it was kind of that thing, and then there's another moment with Cash and Zara where Zara's like, what you guys have is phenomenal, and we misjudged you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And says that Osea must know what she's doing. And again, that kind of brings this thing to me where it's like, in that statement, that lends me to believe that they were not working on her behest.
Right.
They were pissed that she gave out their job to someone else, were following through, wanted, in my mind, this kind of shows that it was selfish reasons that they were going after them to try to get it. Yep. And then when they lost and Vox Machina came out on top and they defeated all the challenges and everything else, they were like, oh, okay, I guess maybe the Sphinx is seeing something that we didn't see, so I guess you all deserve it.
It's crazy in my mind, because I can't imagine working for a Sphinx and questioning whether or not that Sphinx knows what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And one like that, like, she's got a bit of an attitude.
Yeah.
So to come back and be like, oh yeah, your plan that you set up, we went and tried to screw with it. Like, I wouldn't, if I were them, I wouldn't necessarily be walking right back to grab another beer with this layers take. I'd take a little bit of time to let the waters cool a bit.
It also begs the question, though, did Osesis know this was going to happen?
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the problem when you're dealing with Omnipotent.
Yeah.
People or creatures that have been around since the beginning of time.
For real.
Kind of know how things are going to play out and to go through. And it's easy to be like, well, she couldn't have known. She knew who Vox Machina was.
Yep.
When they walked in. So, all right, have a great night, VTR. Thanks for coming through. Enjoy the rest of your night. Have a good day at school tomorrow. And then we have, so at that point, and then Zara decides to give Vex a bit of a gift.
Yeah, it's almost like the two frenemies are starting to see eye to eye again and are kind of burying the hatchet. And part of this hatchet burying is the gift of the empty talisman or locket that held the fake beholder. And she gives it to Vex, which in its own way is very touching. It's something that I feel like I wanted to see for a few episodes. They were at each other's throats and very childish.
Yeah, and it'd be kind of cool to see them teamed up. Like,
yeah,
they're two really powerful characters and kind of awesome badass attitudes, and it'd be nice to see them on the same side, not quasi on the same side. But then Vex actually says, "And our debt to the Slayer's take." And she's like, "What debt? There is no debt." So that kind of ties everything together.
Which is probably the best thing for Vox Machina.
Yeah, although I'd be wanting to go back and talk to the people back at Vasselheim, being like, what the hell?
Right.
Y'all could have made this so much easier on us. You could have helped us out along this way. But so she gives the locket and says that this opens up to a pocket plane, a small pocket plane, and you can put basically anything or anyone into this pocket plane for a little while and call it back at will. And the debt's been wiped. And they go to leave, and again we have that final remark with Cash where he's like, "Hey, is Antler looking at my ass?"
What a great way to end that scene with the quiet hey, she's checking me out, because we know that they've been flirting for a couple episodes. So
yeah, and it's kind of that whole flirtatious thing didn't really go anywhere, and I have to say, unless it comes back up later, it didn't really go anywhere, and I kind of like that, because too often in writing, people feel the need to overwrite or to tie up every single little loose end, and you don't have to have them, attempt to kiss and fail or anything like that, just to have this, like, that's what happens in real life. You meet people, you flirt, you have this like little banter back and forth and stuff like that, and you go separate ways. And it's not necessary that it has to turn into anything, or that it has to be amount more than what it is. It can just be what it was, and that's enough of a tie-off for that, for now, for that storyline. And if it stays tied off like that, then there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's like the black powder dealer. You see the fire knock over, you hear the boom, and you're like, "Oh, is he dead? Is he not dead? Okay." He blew himself
probably
up.
Not important.
Yeah, he blew himself up, but there we go. And then this is where I was like, oh, because Vex decides the best thing to put into this amulet or talisman is Trinket. Trinket doesn't seem too keen on it, and Grog is chomping at the bit.
Yeah. Grog wants to go in that locket so bad. But the idea for her is to be able to move Trinket around. We've seen a number of times in these episodes where Trinket's not allowed in the castle, Trinket's not allowed in the town, Trinket's not allowed in the inn. And then there's a fight that breaks out. Yeah. And it sure would be nice to have a battle bear.
Exactly. And who's to say that something's not going to happen to Trinket? Someone's not going to throw a drugged piece of food at him or something like that. Like, that's always been a concern for me, is every time Trinket is gone and like left out somewhere, I'm like, I don't like that. Bring him with you. And now they can't bring him with them. And Grog is super stoked about the idea of being next and jumping in and being a part of that. But then we actually have this moment of Vex stepping out, and he has a vision where he sees a destroyed barn, or like a dilapidated old building. Again, everything is red. All these visions are always in this like dire crimson color that's there. And he sees this man dying with his wife at the bedside, and we see the Matron of Ravens. And again, she reaches down and she touches him. And at that point, when she touches him, all of a sudden there's this golden filament again is joining Vax to this dying man. And then the Matron of Ravens actually grabs the filament and starts dragging Vax in towards the body.
Yeah, he doesn't like this. This is too much for Vax.
Yeah, I kind of agree with him. I'd be a little bit tripped out if I had this giant godlike figure I didn't understand who was pulling me around by this ribbon constantly. That she had just cut off my sister and now is attached to a dying man.
Right, and he readily knows is the embodiment of death.
Yeah. And then he turns around and there's this jump scare of this zombie face in his face.
Yep.
And then that zombie face cuts to the ever beautiful Vex. And then she's like, "You've been acting a bit off. What's going on with you?"
Yeah. So it's interesting because we're now, I guess we're a third of the way in of the second season, and that's the first time they've ever done one of those jump scare like moments. Which I'm glad. I think that the jump scare is pretty overplayed in just most arenas. But I thought this one worked pretty nice. It was very unexpected because they never did anything like that before. And it was nicely bookended by being able to see Vex and kind of bring Vax back into Vex. Bring Vax back to reality for that moment, and you get the concern. Vex is with Vax all the time. She would be obviously the first one to know that something's up.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, and it's that she just says like you've been acting odd, and it's like there's a disconnect of some sort, like that she's actually concerned and she's actually having to ask him what's going on. And that was the thing, is that I think the jump scare really works in the sense that it really lets you kind of know or feel kind of what Vax is feeling. If all of a sudden you're standing there and everything goes red and you see this stuff and you're being pulled forward by a godlike character, it's really kind of jarring and is going to be frightening. So you get that like jump from it with that. And this is where I found was like the understatement of the entire series, where he's like, "When you died, I saw the matron and I begged her to take me instead of you." So if you think "you raven bitch, take me instead" is begging.
Yeah, you thought I was downplaying
the brush off?
A brush off.
Yes, I'm like, all right, that's okay. That's begging. I'm glad the people that we have in the streets begging aren't quite that way of doing it.
That aggressive?
Yeah. But then Vex says, "Brother, whatever it is, we'll figure it out. Nothing has changed." And then that's where Vax says, "Everything has changed," and walks away.
Very strong words. Very key words. Moving on.
And that is this really kind of a pivotal moment where this episode created a lot of questions for the rest of it. Yeah. And a part of the fact that, like you said, we're a third of the way through this series now, or through this season, and there is a lot to wrap up. Mm-hmm. There's a lot happening still. And this is where I was kind of like, you know what, how are they going to do all of this? I honestly thought that by this point, perhaps the dragons would be taken care of.
Yeah.
Right? And obviously I was wrong in that sense, because the dragons don't even make an appearance in this episode, except for one in this final scene, where we get to see this mysterious female figure watching everything playing out in an orb, which then cascades over very similarly to the way that Vex's eyes shaded over when she died. And she's standing beside Westruun, and she starts walking towards Westruun where the city's on fire and there's a dragon lazily circling overhead. And that's the end of the episode, leaving with a pretty good hook.
Yeah. So, like you, I also expected that we'd be a little bit further into the dragon slaying. And I thought that by the end of the season, we'd be, moving on to the hook for season 3. Now I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, and that's where, the writer part of me has this thing of, there's way too much story they're putting into this for this season to be tied up appropriately. They're not going to be able to tie the season up, and are they going to have missteps like they did last season when Pike went
Right.
off on her journey? But then there's another part of me, a stronger part of me, that's like, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they really have a handle on their storytelling, their pacing, their plot pointing, and all that stuff. They had a couple of missteps. They haven't had any missteps so far this season. And I think at this point, it's kind of the shut up brain, just enjoy the ride, because there's going to be some stuff coming up.
Yeah. Honestly, I haven't felt like I've needed to shut myself up as much this season, just in general. But I know what you mean. Like, there's so much going on. Even forgetting about the dragons, if we just ignore the dragons for now, I feel like the individual character stories are so much that it's going to be hard to wrap up in the season.
Yeah,
There's so much going on.
there is. But I'm now at the point where I can let my writer brain believe that they know what they're doing enough, and they're
Yeah.
talented enough writers and creators to really handle this, and they know what they're doing. We don't know what they're doing, but they know what they're doing,
We go.
and it's going to be pretty fantastic to watch it play out. I'm just excited for more and more of this stuff. It's really quickly becoming my favorite animated series.
You're welcome.
It's amazing. Well, that's the thing. You recommended this, and it's absolutely phenomenal. I never thought it could be as amazing as it's turned out to be. It's because that's the thing: the acting, the dialogue, the storytelling, the characters, the characterizations, the enemies, the bosses. All of this stuff is just so brilliantly designed. And the fact that they didn't use a beholder; they used a different variation of a beholder.
Yep.
Which I do with the cocktail sometimes. I create a variation off of an existing cocktail. But I didn't do that this time. This was a new cocktail. Which, unfortunately, I didn't, because I had such a busy day, I didn't strain it with my strainer normally. I just split the cocktail shaker. So a couple of small slivers of grapefruit skin slid through, and that's what caught
Slapped
me
you in the
off guard.
face.
Yeah, and kind of caught me off guard there. So I'm probably going to cut that part out of the episode. For the free one. 'Cause I tried to put my face down, but I don't know if I actually got off camera or if people saw me spit it back into the glass. So,
Great.
and it had to be at the tentacle scene as well. But so now that you've heard us discuss this episode, chat, you kind of understand what I was talking about with Vex gets a second chance of coming back to life. Vex somehow gets a second chance of not being obliterated by mouthing off to the Matron of Ravens. They have another battle, but they all survive with each other, and the Cash has a second chance or a change of heart where he actually kind of jumps in and starts helping with things.
Yep.
And then we have them leaving after they defeat Yarvos, and then there's a second chance of the group of surviving another battle and moving on, like getting out of the water and surviving everything. And then there is the wiping of the debt to the Slayer's take, and the handing over of the talisman and everything else. And so I really kind of felt the overall theme of this episode was second chances.
Yeah, I agree. I think that your idea for the drink was perfectly executed. I think that it was great. You could have really leaned hard on the fake beholder. You could have leaned hard on like just the resurrection, but I think second chances was the way to go.
Thank you. I had someone recommend the idea of doing a I thought of doing a paralyzer, but then someone recommended doing a corpse reviver, because there's a corpse reviver and a corpse reviver number 2. But I thought that was too on the nose and just a very minuscule part of the episode.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to go that route. But no, I'm happy with how this turned out. It was pretty fantastic. The next drink, I'm really excited for.
Okay.
This next drink has tropical elements to it. Let's just say one of the garnishes is dragon fruit.
Oh, okay.
For the next one, which I actually spent $6 for a single dragon fruit to experiment this cocktail.
Wow.
And it also No, when I made the Pennywise cocktail, it was a cocktail that started off kind of light and fruity and then gained a little bit of heat and spiced up as you went along.
Mm.
This cocktail started with muddling grapefruit peels in with the tequila. This next cocktail starts with muddling habaneros in with the alcohol.
I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued.
So that's the teaser for this. It's habaneros and dragon fruit. The part of the elements of this next cocktail coming up.
Sounds delicious.
I'm excited for it. Like tomorrow I'm going to be testing and playing with it and having some fun. So that was it. So what is the what are your overall thoughts of this episode? Before we get into the pros and cons like we do, what's your overall thoughts of this?
I think the episode was really good. There was so much in this episode. They really forwarded a lot of individual storylines, especially with Vax, especially with Vex, and we had a lot of closure with Zara's relationship, but we just got so much out of this episode. And again, it was short, it was action-packed. I want to say at least 10 minutes out of the 25 was that fight. It was really good. It was really good.
That was it. Like the fights were just amazing, and the juxtaposition of the two of having. That's the second time now they've done this. Mm-hmm. They had Vox Machina in danger with the Slayer's take, and Grog getting his ass kicked, and then to have Vax getting his ass kicked, and the Vox Machina getting beat again by the Yarvos, and that's something that. I loved the episode. I thought it was great. It was probably one of the more emotional episodes they've done. I really love that aspect of it. And there are so many just touching tie-ins, funny moments, poignant moments, amazing battle scenes and fighting scenes and everything else with that. And again, like the little bit of anger at the betrayal of things. And we see how bad things have gone for them so far. So to have Zara, Cash and Zara, but mainly Zara, throw them under the bus again by attacking them with this other like monster beast that's really hard to defeat, was really kind of just difficult to watch, and rose a lot of anger. And then you get the emotionality of dealing with Trinket at the beginning, and then seeing Trinket get batted around like a ping pong ball. There was a lot.
That really upset you.
Well, it was just amazing. Like that was the only creature, the only one of them that actually got beat up, and it was for me. It was just the juxtaposition. I think it was done on purpose because it's juxtaposition to the beginning. Like they really, unless you're stone-hearted, you already fall in love with Trinket. And at this point in the beginning, they show you how they got it, the trauma that Trinket went through, the fact that he watched his mother get riddled with arrows and killed in front of his eyes. And then you get taken in by Vax and Vex and all of this beautiful stuff that happened, and you really get this like connection to him, and then you see him batted around like that. It was just really, they're really good, and that's something that stands out to me because that's what I love to do in my writing, is I lay down groundwork, like in my science fiction novel I'm working on. I make you fall in love with the characters, but I make you fall in love with this one character in particular, just absolutely adore this character. And then I give him the most brutal murder imaginable. And it's because I want to make you fall in love and then rip your heart out. And that's kind of what they were teasing with this, is this really emotional moment. And then they really kind of like tenderize your heart a little bit with as Trinket's being tenderized against the tomb walls.
Nice. Yep.
Yeah, most definitely.
So do you have an MVP for this episode?
An MVP, that's tough.
Oh, it's not tough.
You don't think so?
No.
I don't know. I mean, there's the sense of, I would see, that's the thing. It could be Cash because he brings Vex back to life, but I'm kind of a little bit torn on that because I'm not entirely sure or certain that Cash deserves the credit.
He does.
I think that credit goes to Vax and his dealings with the Matron of Ravens, who she was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, then, we'll bring her back. So I think in that sense, I think I would have to say, like, obviously, my love language would want to say Yarvos is the badass because he's just this amazing creature. But I would probably give it to Vax because he made the deal that brought back his sister. and he became like he faced off against Pervon. He became the new champion, and then he destroys Yarvos.
So I am going to agree and say the smart answer is Vax. My heart, my MVP is going out to Cash, and it's not because he didn't resurrect Vex. It's because he finally stood up to Zara, and because he followed his own path and decided to jump in and help them. He said, screw this, and finally followed his own vindication instead of just following Zara.
Especially when he was threatened with, you're betraying, if you do this, you're betraying everything. And he didn't even respond, hesitate, or anything. He just jumped.
Exactly.
And went forward.
And it doesn't hurt that he asked if Antlers was looking at his ass on the way out. So
yeah, that was a really cute kind of play back and forth they have with each other. It was very I enjoyed that bit of flirtatiousness between the two of them.
Agreed.
So what's your gripe with this episode?
Oh, what's my gripe with this episode? I think this is going to be the second episode in a row where I don't really have one, so I'm going to have to like force one. I am going to. This is really like made up. Like this is so ticky tacky. I think the petrification and reanimation process was so simple and so like didn't affect the characters that I was trying to like. It's got to be harder to make someone not stone after they were just turned to stone, right? They got to have some kind of like stiffness.
Yeah, exactly. Or being disoriented at least.
Right, exactly.
Something for that.
But I mean, I get why they don't have enough time to deal with that crap. But there you go. There's my complaint.
There we go. Sailor Richie, thank you very much for the follow. Welcome to the Writers Chat. For myself, again, being very, very nitpicky, I agree with you on that point. There could have been some of that, but I can see why they didn't, because it was so quick acting and fast moving with all of this.
Yeah.
But I see for myself the qualm that I have, and I'm gonna take it back to my little pocket dimension, and pull out that thing of, I understand why and how everything that works, but they're not in a very big space, and he was a very big creature with multitudes of tentacles, and he very easily could have just been like and hit all of them all at once. And the fact that as he's moving through the space back and forth and looking around and firing off at people and doing all this stuff, that didn't even glance up, didn't even glance over at Vax. I mean, Vax was kind of hiding, but you would think that somewhere it'd be seen. But actually, you know what? Because I did explain that away, I'm going to retract that. My issue is going to be the fact that Vox Machina did not look up. When they came back in and Cash and Zara were gone, they were standing on a ledge here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they didn't look up. They were like, "Oh, where'd they go?" And they were like looking at the ground.
Why would they look up?
Look up. Like, they're literally 5 feet above your shoulder. Just look to the left, and there they are. And they're talking to each other, and they echoey tomb.
Yeah, they weren't very subtle.
But again, like I agree with you on that. There's really nothing that I can really pull apart in this. It was a fantastic episode, and anything that I'm going to pull issue with is going to be farcical at best.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it was pretty fantastic. So
I feel like I just had so many better arguments last season.
Well, because last season they actually had some missteps, and that's the thing. I think they really picked up on what they did wrong, or what they could have improved. I don't want to say what they did wrong, but they could have improved upon.
Yeah, they really buttoned it up.
Yeah, and that's a sign of intelligent writing. That's a sign of people that actually are good at their craft and know what they're doing. They can recognize mistakes, and they can fix them, but not in a way that's placating the fans. That's something that absolutely drives me nuts, where there's the whole Jar Jar Binks argument that can be brought up with this, and where there's something that happens, the character or the writers have an idea, they've got a design that they're going for, and then they get so much pushback that they completely abandon what they were working on, and they go in another direction. And I like the fact that Vox Machina has never done that. They've never really given anything that aggressive for fans to become that vociferous about. But
Sure.
they have the changes they made were for the betterment of the show, not to appease the fan base or anything like that.
Right. Right.
On a side note, what are your thoughts on that Jar Jar Binks controversy idea? Or are you familiar with that one?
I will be honest. I have no idea what you're talking about. I know who Jar Jar Binks is. I have seen maybe 3 of the Star Wars.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, the concept behind this was that Jar Jar Binks was this bumbling fool of a character that kind of pissed everybody off.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the theories fan theories that are out there was that Jar Jar Binks was actually intended originally to be a Sith Lord because he had orange eyes, or a Sith Master. He had orange eyes, and he was supposed to be a master of the evil side, and he was kind of playing a pawn. And the fact is that there is a method of kung fu or martial arts called the Drunken Master, where the purveyor of that form of martial arts would pretend to be drunk or act like a drunken fool and stumble around and waver and move their tankard of ale around and stuff, but end up destroying everybody that they're in the fight with. All of their movements appear to be clumsy and drunken, but they're actually very precisely organized to defeat everybody and knock people out and stuff. So they always won their battles, but they disarmed their opponents by acting drunk. Jar Jar Binks was this clumsy oaf of a character that in every time he was in a fight, he always destroyed everyone that he was fighting against, because he would trip and he'd unplug this and he would knock that into this person and he would flip a blade that would stab someone else or whatever. Like, he would just stumble his way through fights and always come out on top. So the original concept was that he was supposed to, a fan theory was that he was supposed to be a Sith Lord that was set within the group of Jedi, or within the ranks of the good guys, and he was acting as a drunken master to disarm everybody and make them think that he was this goofy, stupid kind of character. But he angered the fan base so much, and they became so ferocious in their pushback against it, that they completely abandoned the idea of that, and they essentially ended up just kind of cutting the character of Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, it's too bad. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So I've never seen whether or not that theory was true, but that's one that's always kind of stuck through to me. And you see stuff like that often. And another instance of that was Spider-Man. And we won't get into Spider-Man 1, but Spider-Man with the black suit and coming back from the Secret Wars with Venom, and then losing the black suit, and then Black Cat making it for him because the fans liked it. And there's this whole confusing storyline in the comics with Spider-Man for that. Okay. So it's good to listen to your fans and react, but not in a way that's going to change the core concept of the story.
Right.
And Vox Machina does a great job at doing that.
Agreed.
So there we go. Well, thank you very much. It was another fantastic episode.
Thank you.
And so we're going to chat for a little bit longer. We're going to cut a bit early tonight because I have stuff I have to take care of because my day has been so chaotic. But until next time, Billy, thank you very much for joining me. It's been, as always, it's been fantastic having you. I can't wait to talk about the next episode. And the episode after that, actually. There's so many things coming up that are going to be fantastic to talk about.
Yeah, always a pleasure, Travis. Thanks for having me again. I look forward to our next episode.
Sounds great. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you again soon. Have a great night, everyone. Those of you that are watching the replay of this, if you haven't yet, go back and watch season 1 of After the Roll. We break down the first season of Vox Machina. We have another co-host with us, and we have a great time. So until next time, everyone, thank you very much, and we'll catch you again later.